MultimediaJay Radio Style.
Yes, it has been fun, hasn't it, folks? Over the last couple of months, over the last, just following this game and all this lovely stuff. And all those white knight tears from the fanboys leaving comments have been absolutely delicious. Yeah, anyways, let's stop being so smug about all of this, and let's talk about World of Warcraft for a bit here on MultimediaJay Radio Style on this, the eve of the day when the newest expansion has been announced, or as I should probably call it, the Band-Aid expansion. The expansion that Blizzard maybe hopes that will make up for all of their missteps in Warlords of Draenor. The newest World of Warcraft expansion is World of Warcraft Legion. The most uninspired name for a World of Warcraft, or even a Warcraft anything that I have ever heard. Cataclysm was a little cheesy, but Legion. Hence the name of this discussion. WoW is Legion for the expansion packs are many, which is a parody of the original, I think it's from the Bible actually, we are Legion for we are many. And I think even the folks in the anonymous hacker group use this term from time to time, but World of Warcraft Legion, the most uninspired name for a World of Warcraft expansion pack that I have ever heard, but it's simple and it's to the point. This is all about the Burning Legion. It's certainly more to the point than the Burning Crusade was. I couldn't even half figure out what the Burning Crusade was supposed to be about. Okay, Burning Legion, but Crusade, what are we crusading against the Burning Legion? What's this? And, we go to Outland and blah, blah, blah. Speaking of Burning Crusade, blatant channeling the nostalgia for Burning Crusade, even though Outland, if assuming nothing has been changed, is probably the worst part of the game right now. Going, if you don't take the free level to level, the free boost to level 90, Outland has the most archaic and outdated questing system and just about everything in the entire World of Warcraft experience. If you want to know what it was like in the bad old days of WoW Classic, playing through Outland and leveling through those zones without using heirlooms would be a great way to find out, because has anything been changed in the nearly 10 years since that expansion was a thing? Yeah, nice. Blizzard was once said that the previous expansions, like going through Outland or going through Northrend, were basically like traveling back in time, so to speak, and yup, if you want to experience the crudeness and watch WoW's development, at least through questing, don't skip from 1 to 90. Play through and see what exactly is going on here. So, okay, World of Warcraft Legion. I have seen the announcement. Fortunately, the saved YouTube stream is up, unlike tonight's Republican debate, which is really an embarrassment that Fox News has it behind a paywall, so you need a pay TV subscription to watch it online, which is stupid. I was hoping to get some nice entertainment off of Donald Trump looking like a moron on that stage. I'll catch the YouTube clips people upload after the fact, and the reason why I'm really ticked off about this is because CNN lets you watch, CNN streams their debates. So the main competitor to Fox News, whom conservatives call the Communist News Network, the main competitor to Fox News, I could have watched this debate, but not Fox News Channel. So anyways, this is one of the many reasons why lots of folks make fun of Fox News. Not just in the left either. Centrist folks make fun of Fox News too for some of the times they have little media gaffes or things like that, but that is a completely different discussion. So, World of Warcraft Legion, what do I think of it? I've seen the reveal and I've heard some of the early commentary, and I was even dumb enough to poke around on the forums and read all the complaints from the vocal minority that posts on the official forums. But as far as Legion is concerned, Legion could be, if it is what it's supposed to be here, Legion could be the expansion that brings me back to WoW. I'll admit that right now, but there are some massive caveats to this. Because, unfortunately for Blizzard, Warlords of Draenor has happened, and I am not happy with paying more for an expansion to stop playing it after the initial launch patch because the content wasn't interesting and because of the toxic community and the argument about flying versus no flying, which, by the way, is already back on the forums. There's already a thread No flying in Legion, no buying the expansion, and all the old arguments are being brought out once again. And when is Blizzard going to bring down the hammer on this stuff? You know, I think the way they could diffuse this is by coming out and saying how it's going to work. Is there going to be an achievement? Will you be able to get that achievement in the first patch? And I think a lot of that will have to do with whether or not Legion is a rush job like its predecessor. Not that Blizzard is in the position to be making the same old mistakes again and again, as the White Knight tiers have been absolutely delicious since WoW went down to 5.6 million subscribers. Yes, listen and read it and weep, listen to it and weep. 5.6 million subscribers. World of Warcraft is literally half the game it used to be. Yeah, I know, it's sad. It's sad, isn't it? It's depressing that the flagship subscription MMO is half the game it used to be. And there are now less people playing World of Warcraft grand total right now than there were at any time that I've ever played the game. Even in WoW Classic, there were more players. Right. Now, I thought when I first heard about this whole earnings call thing, I thought that they would use the WoW token as the defense mechanism against further sub-losses. Well, you know, they're leaving because they can use tokens. But actually, they factored it in? Oh, man. So, yeah. And then, of course, there's other types of things as well. And they think the Warcraft movie is going to band-aid the thing. And patch 6.2 helped to stabilize subscriber counts, supposedly, blah, blah, blah. Right. When does it end, Blizzard? When do the excuses end? This game is half the game that it used to be, quite literally, at this point. Even with the token system, it didn't stem the losses. And here's the problem. Legion is not going to be the Band-Aid that fixes this. There are some very important differences between now and when Warlords of Draenor was in the works. Specifically, that Warlords of Draenor has happened. Last go-round, when Blizzard was hyping up Warlords of Draenor, the stars were absolutely aligned for Blizzard. It was 10 years of WoW, 20 years of Warcraft, nostalgia, anniversaries, the whole 9 yards, and the expansion was going to tap into classic Warcraft lore and have humans and orcs going at it, orcs, orcs, orcs. It was a compelling sounding story, even if it was a little weird because it was basically alternate 1985 Back to the Future in WoW form. And what have they done since then? Squandered it completely. The game has lost even more subs. And if I actually look at the chart of, yeah, that's quite a plummet. Now, here's the problem. Because of everything that's been cut down or cut out of the rush job known as Warlords of Draenor, where they couldn't even get the entire continent into the launch of the expansion. Whereas, you know, now that has happened, the hype train isn't going to have as much steam because people can now say, well, yeah, you're saying all these nice things about Legion, but we remember what happened with Warlords. So, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or something like that. Fool me once. No, it's fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Can you tell I had a long day at work? I got some more nonsense happening tomorrow, and I have reason to believe that my manager's not going to understand the simple idea of TGIF and give me a ton of stuff to do on a Friday and then be missing in action on Monday. Oh, I got lots of meetings, blah, 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 but that's something else entirely. So that's really it. I mean, the hype train has sailed, or excuse me, the hype ship has sailed. The card has been played, and the situation for Blizzard now is the polar opposite of what happened when Warlords of Draenor was in the works. They had all that stuff going for them, and they saw to it in their own talented way that it got them nowhere. And now they are on the defensive. WoW is smaller than any time that I've ever played the game right now. It is in worse shape. They had a de facto one-patch expansion, and now they're thinking the Warcraft movie is going to band-aid all of... Folks, let me tell you a little something about the Warcraft movie. The Warcraft movie is its own thing. It should not be tied to World of Warcraft. There's no way for them to tie the movie to World of Warcraft unless they copy Warlords of Draenor, which I don't think they're going to really be doing anytime soon, considering what happened with Warlords. They would need some kind of alternate timeline story to tie the movie directly in with the game. Forget it, folks. It's not happening. Or maybe the next expansion, they'll try and do something rather desperately to coincide with, like, the DVD release of the film or something. But, you know, what a lot of WoW players forget is that Warcraft existed before WoW. WoW is just the most successful iteration of Warcraft ever, but the franchise is older and has more lore than that. So, this is something the fanboys don't understand. I mean, yeah, sure, there hasn't been a Warcraft 4, and there probably won't be one anytime soon because Blizzard backed themselves into a corner, not being able to pull a Bethesda and have both regular games and an MMO going at the same time because of issues with the timeline. So, but besides all of that, I mean, the Warcraft movie is its own thing. You might get people that like the RTS but can't stand the MMO that are seeing that movie because it has lots of references to the classic games. There may be some references to WoW, but WoW is sharing the stage with the rest of the Warcraft franchise. So take a seat, fanboys. That's not the way that it's going to work. But as far as... we're not here to talk about the movie. The movie cannot be the Band-Aid for Legion. It can't be what makes people want to play the Legion expansion pack. It can't be... What needs to happen is Blizzard needs to just shut up and make a good game. Some of these ideas do sound pretty interesting. The Broken Isles looks kind of like a cross between Draenor and Pandaria, so continent-wise, I'm not really too fond of the continent. Doesn't look like there's anything. It looks like it's a mishmash of them grasping for straws. You have an area that's kind of like Burning Crusade, an area that's kind of like Night Elf area, an area that's kind of like Northrend. You got lots of Vrykul and stuff. So it looks like kind of a mishmash, best-of type thing with the Broken Isles, but the other features of the game look a little bit interesting, like bringing back the significance of classes and class halls and things like that. I remember back in the days, mostly WoW Classic, when there were in-game chat channels for each of the classes. So if you had a mage or something like that and you got treated like crap in a group, you jump on the mage channel and say, oh, this group sucks, don't ever group with this guy, blah, blah, blah. And it was a lot more of an identity, but this is also back when there were class quests, and you'd have like somewhat powerful class relics like the priest staff as you approach level 60 and things along those lines. But that's kind of gone away and things have gotten way too homogenized. So to bring back some real flavor to the classes, to make you glad that you rolled a warlock or glad that you rolled a paladin or glad that you rolled a rogue, you know, if they can bring back something like that, then that would be awesome. I mean, it would kind of bring back the identity of, this is something, you see, in this discussion on Legion, when I think it was Tom Chilton that was talking about it, I heard him say something that I haven't heard on a regular basis since the olden days of Burning Crusade, and that is the phrase concentrated coolness. One of the reasons why WoW has been successful is that they've avoided some of the pitfalls of blending the classes too closely together, at least until recent years. I mean, if you remember EverQuest 2, EverQuest 2 was contemporary to WoW when WoW first came out, and, well, history has told what happened there, but when EverQuest 2 first came out, the two warrior classes were right next to each other. You had Guardian Warrior and you had more DPS warrior. I think it was Berserker or something, but the classes were very similar, but you couldn't switch from one class to another. You couldn't switch from one role to another without re-rolling from level 1. And unfortunately, Neverwinter does some of that with Guardian Fighter versus Great Weapon Fighter, and I'm not really too fond of 4th edition D&D anyways, but it's just concentrated coolness has long been missing. There have been too many abilities in recent expansions that have looked too much like abilities that some other class had, or abilities that were a reaction to or an imitation of something that people wished they had on their class. There's been too much of that going on, and to have it be cool to be a shaman again, or have it be cool to be a warrior again, and these class weapons and these other things like that, it really does sound like something compelling. Plus, the whole weapons thing, weapons have traditionally been a sticking point for character progression because you often had to raid specific bosses or go to outside of PvP. Weapons were kind of like a big step, and you had to fight for loot rolls and things like that. So in my case, with a lot of my characters being an altaholic, it was very easy to have armor that was far better than the weapon that I was wielding, than my characters were wielding, because it's just weapons were such a huge thing. It was practically gated, like elite steps in progression to get a new weapon at the raid level. And so to have something like this and just shunt it out, and you just level up a weapon that already looks cool, or maybe you can transmog it or something like that, or the whole artifact system as they're talking about it right now, plus essentially have a talent tree system for your weapon that you can use to get traits and stuff as you use the legendary whatever to fight back the Burning Legion. You know, this whole thing with the weapons really takes care of a major itemization issue, except it introduces the issue of everyone's going to have similar looking weapons. I mean, we're talking almost a nod to Final Fantasy XIV at this point, where your class is determined by what weapon you equip. And I do believe Neverwinter does this too, where you can identify what class somebody is by what they're walking around with, or what they bust out when it's time to do combat. You know, great weapon fighters love two-handers, guardian fighters go sword and board. I think it's not devoted cleric, but oath something. Yeah, I haven't played that game in a while. The paladin class in that game uses maces and shields. I mean, it's just it's too homogenized, and so I'm starting to wonder if this might go down that same route where everybody has the same kind of weapon, so you can tell what they are by what they wield, and it gets a little too boring after a while. Oh, look, guy with a pair of daggers, obviously a rogue. Oh, that guy has a two-hander that looks like a sacred relic, Ret Paladin, stuff like that. So it really depends on what they do with this. Likewise with the order halls and the class orders, sound like a really cool idea, but the champions replacing followers, so you have less NPCs involved with you, but they're more involved. Actually, I would like to see some kind of sidekick system. You know, all these Dragon Warrior style, I'm all by myself and I'm out in the world type thing. I mean, the NPCs in Warlords that followed you in the outdoor world, there needs to be something like that, and not just limited to the continent that you're on. So no matter where you go in the world, if you have a certain champion that you like following or along with you or something like that, maybe it doesn't have to be like Lady Liadrin or something like that, but you can have some kind of like sidekick going with you no matter where you go. Or maybe you want to roleplay this character who has a huge crush on some Jaina Proudmoore type NPC or something like that. So it would just open up more things for the RP crowd and the lore crowd and folks who play the game as something other than League of Legends++. The emphasis on dungeons and not having them lose significance versus raids is also an interesting idea as well, and it'll maybe help get away from the problem that scenarios caused in Mists of Pandaria. Oh wait, whatever happened to those things? Yeah, the honor system revamp, maybe it'll bring some life back into PvP, but I see a lot of guild wars in the honor system revamp, actually. I remember years and years ago when, as part of the tenacious attitude that WoW developers often exhibit, they went around saying things like, if someone brought up a good idea from another game, like splitting out PvE from PvP, oh, no, we wanted this to be a one thing, when we don't want things to work differently, until they sheepishly started doing it, where stuff does work differently between PvE and PvP. Oh, we want World of Warcraft to be this coherent whole, and they've gradually eroded that, and now they're just all in. Different progression system for PvP and PvP talents. Sounds interesting. So yeah, it's a compelling story. It's a compelling story, although maybe a little too much name dropping with some of the raid bosses. Gul'dan's involved, Ashara's involved. But the most important thing of all of this is that Warlords of Draenor has happened. And what we saw with Warlords of Draenor was a lot of hype and a lot of good ideas that just got cut, and the expansion was a rush job. I mean, for the first time ever since I've been playing this, there were invisible walls and stuff because the entire continent wasn't available at launch. That can't happen again. Oh yes, let's be clear about that. I mean, if Blizzard has more developers than ever before, I don't expect rush job expansions like what happened with Warlords, because that's part of what made the flying, no flying thing such a problem, was until they finally figured it out, and hopefully now they figured it out and they're going to go with it and stick with it. But until they figured it all out, you could say that it was because Tanan Jungle wasn't in the game, that's why there was no flying, or there wasn't Farallon, which never even made it, so there was no flying, which I'm still disappointed about Farallon. They need to bring it back in some way, shape, or form, or have that be like a holdover patch if it takes too long to develop World of Warcraft Legion, because I'm kind of curious about Netherstorm before it was Netherstorm, and so is anybody who played Burning Crusade and has an interest in how everything develops in the world and things along those lines. Unfinished content is really a downer, kind of like the other Sanctums in the Dragon Place. You had Emerald, you had Ruby Sanctum, you had Obsidian Sanctum. What about the Emerald Sanctum? Maybe we'll see that with this next expansion having part of the Emerald Dream in it. Maybe, I wonder. But yeah. So it sounds interesting, but the most important thing here is that Blizzard is in a very different position with WoW than they were when Warlords of Draenor was in development. So they really need to just shut up and make a great game, because people are, they're going to take all this hype and all this publicity, unless they're really stupid and or really gullible, they're going to take all of this with a grain of salt. And I will gladly throw my hat in that ring, because I am going to wait and see what they do with this. Let's not forget, there was a lot of grand ideas for Warlords of Draenor, and things got cut down, cut out. You wound up with the garrisons not being what they could have been. The shipyard certainly wasn't what it could have been. You had all of this going on, and it just was a massive disappointment. As one commentator put it, Warlords of Draenor is an exercise in how to give up on a video game. Yeah, it's just... And it's terrible, too, because Warlords had everything going for it. 20 years of Warcraft, 10 years of WoW, orcs, classic classic elements of Warcraft coming back into the game for the first time since the RTS days. No more Kung Fu Pandas. They had all this kind of stuff going on. And they did what with it? They wound up changing their story. The Iron Horde looked like an interesting enemy until, oh yeah, the Burning Legion was involved all along. Let's just get back to the old storyline as if the alternate timeline never happened. I considered that a disappointment. What they did with Grom Hellscream in the ending cinematic, considering what he did in the earlier parts of the expansion, also a disappointment. I don't really think I've missed much by not having played since the launch patch. I mean, selfie cam? Really? Metagaming galore, people. So that's really the bottom line with World of Warcraft Legion. Blizzard needs to shut up and make a great game. Otherwise, I don't think I'll be missing much. It's that simple. They have great ideas, but they also had great ideas for Warlords. And we saw how that all turned out. So yeah, shut up and do it, Blizzard. You've done it before, now do it again. Here is my challenge to Blizzard Entertainment. Because I, at least for a little bit, want to be egotistical enough to think that when they say, we're listening, they might actually listen to some random guy talking into a microphone like me. So here's my crazy challenge for Blizzard. If you want folks like me to come back to this game, if you want Legion to band-aid, so to speak, the damage that has been done by Warlords of I Give Up, if you want to try and reclaim some of WoW's former glory, here's what some folks in business would call a big, hairy, audacious goal, or a BHAG. World of Warcraft Legion needs to be the next Wrath of the Lich King. That's a tall order for the Blizzard of today, I know that. But that's what they need to do. They're coming into this with this game literally half the game that it used to be. People are making excuses like, oh, it's an over 10-year-old game, it can't be good anymore. I mean, in just one expansion pack, Blizzard has gone from the stars practically aligning for them to the deck being stacked against them. So what can today's Blizzard do? So I think it's perfectly appropriate to say that Legion needs to be the next Wrath of the Lich King. Despite the fact that they want to have updates and big content more often, that they want to have expansion packs more often, I want people to be talking about Legion like in fond, I remember back when, over 5 years later, just like they do right now for Wrath of the Lich King. That's what Blizzard needs to shoot for. If they don't, well, WoW fanboys, enjoy gloating about the game being the biggest sub-MMO ever, because these numbers are going to keep dropping. 5 mil and counting, and trust me, Legion is going to be taken with far more of a grain of salt than Warlords of Draenor ever was. I don't expect to see the kind of sub-jump with Legion's launch that there was for Warlords' launch. People, the unfortunate truth is that Warlords of Draenor has happened. That card has been played, that train has left the station, the ship has left the harbor, whatever analogy you want to use. Blizzard just needs to shut up and make a good game. And they need to make the next Wrath of the Lich King here. Even though they want to release content and expansion packs more often, they need to make something that's remembered the same way that Wrath is fondly remembered today. That's the only way this game's going to stay dominant. Otherwise, expect it to join the crowd of MMOs and not stick out from them anywhere near as much as it has in days gone by. Because really, when you think of it, the whole MMO thing has kind of blown over with people. Because when you stop and think about MMOs, what do you think? What are you talking about? Yeah, it was a cool idea back when we were playing single-player RPGs and we imagined a world where everybody kind of role-played and made something great. But what do we really have that? I think it kind of blew over, and now we have a lot of MMOs out there that are almost single-player RPGs plus. At the very same time, the whole idea of a game where you just never can beat it, or it never stays beaten, I think it might be getting long in the tooth to some people. Because while you spend years and years playing a game like WoW, you see games that you can actually beat, and maybe you get sick of WoW, you go play some of them for a while, and you're like, wow, I missed all of this. This is a more memorable experience than just, oh, where am I going to be grinding today? Where am I going to be raiding today? Where am I going to be, and of course the social aspects, which Warlords did some damage to with the garrisons, but the social aspects were part of the life preserver for World of Warcraft too. I remember when talking about this on Attic Continues, very good point that was brought up. Everybody who wants to play a game like WoW is already playing WoW. There's no point in copying it. And the social aspects do keep people around. I mean, there were times when I wanted to quit, but I liked the people I raided with. So, I've seen that, and others have seen it as well. It has been kind of a way to keep people playing the game. And now you have the whole inertia thing where, oh, you spent all this time in this game and da-da-da-da-da. But yeah, in order to keep this game from crashing, and crashing and burning, it's time for Blizzard to shut up and make a good game. Because people are not going to play gimmick games. They've already, people remember Warlords of Draenor. Maybe that should be like a rallying cry of some sort. Remember Warlords! Because Blizzard is on the defensive this time, and they need to play the game right. Or should I say, they need to play their cards right in this case. Because otherwise, the future for World of Warcraft, movie or not, is most certainly not bright. Thanks for listening, everybody. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.